Okay, I just wanted to take a minute and talk about the suspension on my V8 S4. So basically, I have 110,000 miles on this S4. I've had it since about 30,000 miles. So in that time, over about 7 years or so now, I've had basically every 034 suspension part installed on the chassis. The springs, all the control arms, all of the suspension inserts, the strut tower brace that you can see here in the engine bay, and so on. The handling on this car is pretty impressive. I'm quite happy with it. There is a big improvement with the play and overall feel of the car. I also have the engine mounts. I have the transmission mount. Literally every 034 component that they sell for the V8 S4 platform is installed on this car, and it's definitely worth it. It feels great, corners great. I don't know how many canyon miles I have, but I do have a lot of time on the canyons over the years with the car. I mean, the car is fast in a straight line, not as fast to today's standards with 1,000 horsepower cars, but I mean, this car is really just great at cornering. One of the things you can see here as far as like with the cornering and stuff, I've worn through the liner on both sides just from all of the hard cornering and body roll and all that. I have the sway bars on this too. Those were more recently installed, and I didn't have them done initially. And I'd highly recommend you do those if you're gonna get the 034 parts. Basically, just get all of them and do all of them while you're in there. I mean, obviously there's money associated with it and what your budget is and all of that, but at a minimum, I'll probably do the rear sway bar and the springs. They're pretty good now. Like I said, I had this car for 7 years, so 034 now sells kits where, like, in order of importance or that they feel is important, the kits kind of come with where it's like, okay, the front strut tower brace, the rear sway bar, and the lowering springs as like a kit. If you don't want to buy every single part, which is understandable, because it is several $1,000s. You know, even as I'm sitting here doing this video, it's hard when I'm like, okay, I have every part. Well, a lot of people don't know every part, and I even forget. But even in the front, because at 35,000 miles before they even had the strut tower brace, I had the lower X member brace as well. So they make a lot of parts for the chassis to really stiffen this car up, and it's worth it if you really like canyon driving. This Quattro, I have the Sport Diff. It's a 6-speed manual. They are a little heavy. They're about 3,700 pounds. You can get them down into the 3,500s if you remove parts, lightweight battery, remove everything from the trunk and stuff like that. Lightweight wheels. Obviously on here as well, I have the ECS 2-piece rotors. Those are 7 pounds lighter per rotor. And that is a great improvement over stock for sure. One thing that I am about to do next week, I just received in the mail, is the Porsche Macan 4 caliper brakes. I'm gonna install those on here just to get a little bit better braking power, because the pedal feel on these cars is just not that great under hard braking. But I don't really want to get too far off that. I'll do another video just kind of on my thoughts on the braking and the 2-piece rotors. This is more just on the 034 suspension parts. And just overall, I think they're a great product. A lot of them I've had on this car for over 5 years. Some of them I've had on for less than a year. So I incrementally just ended up doing all the parts as I kind of, I have a couple other cars, but with this car, it's just real hard to replace its performance for what these cars cost. So I've just never really wanted to sell it, because to get the performance that this car has for the money is almost impossible, especially with how expensive, you know, the newer S4s are, or the RS4s or RS5 or what. I mean, any of the platform really, they've just jumped up pretty heavily on price. You can get another 100 horsepower if you change the turbo out on the turbochargers. I'm not saying this is better than the B9. It's just different, and you can pick these up for 15 grand. And even if you put $25,000 into it and buy every single aftermarket part they sell for this chassis, if you know how to drive, you're going to keep up with anybody in the canyons. In a quarter mile, okay, the B9 will be faster with the, you know, a half a second or something. But that, again, that's only if you spend 13 grand and do a turbo and do every other part associated on the motor. So yeah, it's just all around, it's a great car. The suspension parts are great. I'll do another video kind of talking about, I have all the engine parts on this thing too. I went from one pulley, then later on down the road I went to 2 pulleys, then I went to the ultra charger, and so forth and so on. So this car's just incrementally gotten more parts over the years as I maintained it and added miles on it, and things needed to be replaced from wear and tear. Like the front suspension linkage I replaced when they started to go bad because it was lowered and I had 100,000 miles on it. So that was when I did those. But earlier on, I had done all the bushings and all the suspension stuff before the actual control arms were shot out. So yeah, like I said, 034 parts. I don't have any complaints and would recommend them if you have a V8 S4. Thanks. If you guys have any questions on anything, or you want me to go over a particular part that 034 makes or something like that, just let me know. You can comment and I'll try to respond.